Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
First keep flying high, fans cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Needy boys brawling, no holds barred bout. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman?
Tune in the vibe. Party rats, blood centers. Got me on the mic, now let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Will to Steph, we hit it again. All better chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream highs. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Podcast magic can't be beat. Do better, we're roll better. We're hoop heads, trendsetters.
What is poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guardy3, and welcome to the And One Podcast. And of course, I am joined by the greatest co-host of all time. He is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing blessed, man. We're getting ready to talk hoops on a Thursday night. What can be better than that?
No, absolutely. I gotta ask, how did you enjoy the first day of March Madness so far? I thought it was a lot of fun.
It's been really entertaining. It always is. March Madness was one of the few things that always lives up to the hype, so it's been a blast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, you know how we get started, Mo? Underrated player of the week. Could be a player, team, moment. Who is your underrated player of the week, Mo?
This is going to be an odd one to say because I think it's a segue into a bigger topic, but I'm going to go my underrated player of the week is going to be Tobias Harris. And I'm going to say Tobias Harris is because Tobias Harris has been one of the really good, rock solid NBA players for well over a decade. You can usually book Tobias Harris for around 15, 16 points a game, 8 or 9 rebounds, shoots a really good percentage from 3. Just a really good, solid basketball player through and through, a great presence in the locker room, on the bench, just a reliable, good teammate and a leader. So Tobias Harris to me is going to get his flowers. And I'm picking him out because I think his role going forward in the Pistons offense is getting him ready to get a lot bigger. He's getting ready to get a heavier dose of the offense. So that's my underrated guy, Tobias Harris.
And I think it's a good one. Obviously, we learned today that, one Cade Cunningham is going to be missing a couple of weeks with a collapsed lung. It sounds like it could take him out all the way to the end of the season. And we'll get into my underrated player in a minute, but I figure this is a perfect segue to that. Honestly, I think it's going to be fantastic for the development of some of the lesser players on the Pistons, like some of these role players. But Mo, Jalen Duren has a chance to earn his money right now. He goes out these next couple weeks, he dominates. He could be looking at a spot on the All-NBA third team, in my opinion. What do you think about this whole Cade and potential Duren All-NBA situation?
Well, with Cade out, yes, Duren is going to get the opportunity, I think, to elevate himself to become an All-NBA performer. The only thing I would point out is that every team and their mom knows that Cade's out. So every time Duran catches the ball, we're probably going to double him. We're not going to let him get off. Which is why I think a guy like Tobias Harris is probably going to do the heavy lifting offensively because he can do more things offensively than Jalen Duran. Jalen Duran's much improved offensively. I'm not sure you can build your offense around him. I think they can try. They have no choice with Cade out. The problem with the Pistons I have going forward, Brett, is look, when they were fully healthy, that's including with Cade, who I do think is obviously one of the best players in the NBA. You and I, we were probably in the minority, but we both thought they just didn't have enough to go on a deep playoff run. And now you're taking out the guy that does everything for you offensively. And when you tell me he's got a collapsed lung and you're like, well, he'll be out a few weeks. Hopefully he'll be back by the playoffs. A collapsed lung? I don't know if he's going to be back by the playoffs at all. I don't know if he's going to be back, period. But here's something to wrap your mind around if you're a Pistons fan. By the time Cade Cunningham gets back, if he does come back, y'all not going to be the number one seed anymore. No offense, but I'm going to keep it 100. Without Cade, there's no way they hold on to the number one seed.
I think my concern too with that too is even if he does come back, let's say he comes back for game one of the playoffs. Now you're looking at Cade who hasn't played in what at that point it'd be 3 weeks to a month.
Right.
So you're going to be asking him to get back on the court and just immediately ramp it up back to the level that he was at. And that's going to be a tough call. So like I said, pretty much I think Detroit should potentially, I think they'll still be fine in the first round, but if I'm them, I'm just praying for that perfect matchup to get out of there quickly.
I think Detroit's in trouble. Remember what his injury is: collapsed lung. So even when they say we think you're ready to come back, when you run up and down a court, when you exert yourself, you know what's on fire a lot of the time? Your lungs. He won't just be in not necessarily game shape per se, but I think the injury that he had is going to be greatly tested. And realistically, even if you bring him back for the first round of the playoffs, he can't immediately step into his normal role and play 37, 38 minutes. So now you're going to have Cade Cunningham on a minutes restriction, not quite in game shape. I don't know that there's a perfect matchup for them in the first round. Like, I guess you could say if the Hornets were to get into the playoffs, maybe the Hornets would be a perfect matchup, but I think the Hornets are dangerous regardless. The Hornets, look, they don't have one guy on their team that's better than Cade, but they've got like 3 guys that can create their own shot and get over 20 points a game. Detroit has nothing like that in their offense. So be it Miami or Charlotte or somebody like that, yeah, I can see them beating them. But if he's going to be out for 4 weeks, they're going to get an odd matchup anyway because they're not going to be the number one seed. They're going to be the 2 or the 3. That's a completely different setup.
Yeah, I think their ideal matchup is somebody without strong point guard play, somebody that you can just force a ton of turnovers and live off that. So,
then they need to play Miami.
Right, I was about to say, if they matched up with Miami, I still think they dispose of them because their defense is good enough to, keep it moving while Cade is working his way back into game shape. I think if they match up against Toronto, they don't really have a guy in the half court that's going to take care of the basketball. So I think Toronto would probably be a fine matchup for them. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with and how the Pistons season finishes out from here on out. They still got a 3.5 game cushion on the Celtics. So we'll see if that holds. But with the return of Tatum, I'm assuming at least the Celtics are going to leapfrog them.
Yeah, I expect. Like I said, I don't know what that offense is going to look like. It's definitely going to be a drag, and you're going to have to find ways to generate offense. But because they're such a great defensive team, such a physical team, look, if they can muck up games and play at their pace, they could probably still win games against the weaker teams. So do I expect them to still beat a Brooklyn? Yeah, they'll beat Brooklyn and some of the bottom dweller teams. But if they got games on the schedule remaining against the Celtics or the Cavaliers or the Knicks, who they've mastered the Knicks. They're not going to master the Knicks without Cade. They're going to be hard pressed to stay at the top of the East. But look, as a fan, all I want, much like the Jason Tatum situation is, I just want Cade to be 100% before he comes back. And when he comes back, I'm not a Pistons fan, but I'll definitely be rooting for him.
No, absolutely. But by the way, my underrated player of the week, Mo. I'm out in honor of March Madness. I'm going with an underrated moment. So, if anybody doesn't know, my favorite March Madness like NCAA championship game, it happened in 2016 between Villanova and UNC. And there's one shot in there I feel like gets forgotten about because it just happened to come from the losing side. It's like Chris Jenkins hit a massive shot to win the game. But I just need to shout out Marcus Page like 2 seconds before that, hitting the most ridiculous off-balance three I may have ever seen in my life. Like, I was so convinced when Page hit that three and got it to go.
That was the game winner.
That Villanova was screwed unless, like, I was like, Villanova has to score here or they're going to lose because there's no way. And then obviously Jenkins hits the shot to, win it. But man, I just wanted to give Marcus Page a shout out because that was one of the most absurd shots. I think if you haven't seen it, go look at it. It is, I have no clue how he got that to go to this day.
I love your underrated player of the week in the moment. Look, that's the beauty of March Madness. I can't count how many times I've watched games where a guy on one team makes a huge shot with like 10 seconds to go, and you're thinking, this is it. They've got the game, and yet the other team is running up the court, and they make some kind of freakish shot as time expires to take the air out of everybody. I've seen that's the beauty of March Madness. That's why it's March Madness. You get that kind of craziness late in games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We got the latest NBA reports, Mo, one from each of our teams. We got Giannis and the Bucks disagreeing on how to handle his injury. The Bucks wanted to shut him down for the rest of the year. But Giannis says, no, I'm playing, which, the Bucks are kind of like, well, what's the point of that at this point?
Right.
So we got the Bucks are looking after his long-term future, but Giannis, he's a competitor. He wants to go. So I don't really blame either side in this one because, like I said, I know Giannis is just a pure hooper. So, like I said, I personally think the right call is to sit him. So if I'm the Bucks, I'm probably it's a tough balance though, right? If you're scared he's going to leave, you don't want to anger him. So you let him go back out there and keep playing and risk something, tragic happening, or do you bench him? What do you think, Mo?
I'm benching him. He can be mad at me. He's allowed to feel how he feels, but as a GM, as a president of operations, I have to make decisions that impact the organization. Giannis risking injury in a season that they have no chance of making the postseason, competitor or not, it doesn't benefit the franchise in the big picture. And in a lot of ways, Brett, they're kind of saving him from himself. Look, whether he stays with the Bucks, which I think he will, or not, if you're the Bucks, you do want to make sure that he's healthy and at the very best version of himself going into the offseason. So I'm sitting him, and I'm playing all my young guys. And I'll probably play some of the veterans that I don't plan on bringing back. I'll play them as well because I want people to get a good look at them. And I'll start making plans for the draft, free agency, and what our roster is going to look like next year around Giannis.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. I love Giannis to death, but I think he's just got to have a little, I guess, self-awareness to know, this season's a wrap. So at this point, let's just see if we can play the tightrope game of lose as many games as possible, but I was going to say make sure we have worse odds than the Pelicans because the Hawks can swap the pick. So
right.
I don't think we got to worry about that at this point. So, and then of course, Mo, your team made the news too. DeAndre Ayton got self-awareness in the middle of March. Goes, got to find a way to impact the game without the ball. I see how LeBron and Luke are locked in. And I'm sorry, Mo, that was just the funniest thing ever when I read that. I'm like, how did it take you this long to realize that? Like, weren't you talking about doing that in, like, preseason?
Yeah, I feel like there's always moments when you're an athlete where sometimes you don't have to say anything, and that's the right thing to say. You know what I mean? Like he would have been much better off not saying anything at all than saying what he said. You came into training camp and they wanted you to be more of a rim protector, more of a shot blocker, have more of a presence. They didn't bring you there to be a dominant scorer, and you knew that. And it took you all the way into March to realize, like, I can actually impact games without scoring. Yeah, yeah. Blocking shots, rebounding, defending harder, fighting for loose balls, 50-50 balls, being more competitive in the paint. Yes, you can impact games without the basketball. You know how I know this? Go look at Rudy Gobert. Go look at someone like that who sacrifices offense and it's all about defense. I don't know why it took him this long, but let's see if he can sustain it. I'll put it that way because this seems right now like a honeymoon period. The real challenge for a guy like DeAndre Ayton and what he's trying to say is once you get to the postseason and you get everybody's Sunday punch.
Yeah, say no, absolutely. And my other and say my other thing I wanted to touch on, of course, Mo, at this point, is Con Knuppel just the runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year? Cooper Flag's having a fine year, but oh my goodness, Con has just been monstrous this year.
I think Cooper Flag came in the runaway favorite to be Rookie of the Year, and then Con Knuppel has had the season, not just the season statistically, but the impact he's had on the Hornets franchise. I think Con Knuppel's the Rookie of the Year. Cooper Flag, and I'm sure Cooper Flag and his fans don't want to hear it. Cooper Flag's a close second, but he's still second.
Mo, this is absurd to me. Most games with 20 plus points on 50, 40, 100% shooting in a season. The most ever is 2015 Steph Curry. He has 22 of them. Second place is 2016 Steph Curry with 21 of them. Third place, 2026 Con Knuppel. He has 19 of those games this year. Like, just, and especially when you're a guy that's also shooting a high volume of threes, that is just an absurd thing to be able to do, to just be able to shoot as well as he is on such a high volume. Like, this dude has really unlocked the Hornets, and I'm excited to see the Hornets, what happens with them next year, too.
No, he's one of those rookies that step right into a leadership role. And I think because he's the kind of player that he is, he made the guys that were already closer to being stars, like a LaMelo and a Miles Bridges and others, step their game up. Con Knuppel is probably one of the best draft picks in Hornets history. I mean, that's the kind of impact he's had. I would argue he's not as talented as LaMelo, but he's had a bigger impact on the franchise than LaMelo.
I was going to say it. I'll say I think when it's all said and done, he keeps it at the rate. He's going to be right up there with guys like Kemba Walker. If, like I said, it's high praise, but I'm just absurdly high on this kid because, once again, like I said, I was high. I really liked the pick by the Hornets at first, but he's just shown that he has more to offer than just being a catch and shoot guy. He's got some off the ball game. He's willing to get downhill, go to the rim. Once I saw that, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What are we doing? Maybe we're onto something here.
Yeah, I felt like I summed him up in what he would be. I thought he would be a really good basketball player. No doubt in my mind he was going to be an impactful player, but I didn't see this. What he's doing, and if he continues to do it and grows it and improves even more, Con Knuppel is going to be a perennial all-star, not just a really good player, but a perennial all-star, maybe even an all-NBA player, because I think as he gets better, he'll get a bigger role in the Hornets offense. So I'm just really impressed. Look, there's some guys that you go, like I when Draymond Green was in college, his senior year, I told everybody like Draymond Green is going to be really good. He's the kind of player that superstars want to play with because he does the little things that they don't do, and he's got a crazy basketball IQ. But am I going to lie to you and tell you that I thought Draymond would be as good as he actually ended up? No, I didn't know that his game would translate so easily the way it did. Draymond, I thought he was going to be good. He was way better than whatever I imagined. And Con Knipples the same way. I knew he was a hooper, but I didn't know he had the kind of bag that he has, Brett, getting downhill, the defense. Like, he's a complete basketball player.
Yeah, no, I absolutely say leading the NBA in threes on a 43% clip your rookie year, that's just special.
Agreed.
Here, which team have you been impressed with the last 2 to 3 weeks? Lakers, Hawks, Hornets? You know, I feel like I already touched on the Hornets, so I'm gonna throw Atlanta's name into the hat here. Say, shout out to that team is just playing really well at a high level. Jalen Johnson's having the type of season that we kind of threw out there. We said he could have an all-star caliber season. We thought he was going to before the year started, and I think he's doing just that. Jonathan Kuminga looks revived, getting away from Golden State. Like, the Hawks have been absolutely terrific these last couple weeks.
I agree. Correct me if I'm wrong, because in Atlanta, like on an 11-game win streak.
Yeah.
11-game win streak. You're right about Kuminga. Let's not forget the underrated free agent acquisition when they got Nickeil Alexander Walker. He's just been hooping for them all year long. And then you throw in what Daniels does on the defensive side, and then Okongwu has turned himself into not just a good face-up player, but he's turned into a three-point threat. Like, they have a really good offense. They've got a lot of athletes, and when I look at Atlanta, all I see is upside. Like, whatever they do in the postseason, be it they win a first-round series, or even if they lose in the first round, I'm not sure that's going to be a disappointment. It'll be a growing process, and maybe they'll feel disappointed. But if you're a franchise, if you're the president of operations or the GM of the Atlanta Hawks, your future is really bright.
Yeah, now just don't make any stupid moves like last time when you think you're going all in for DeJounte Murray. Don't do that again.
No, don't do that. No, right. Don't outsmart yourselves. Like, the talent that you have, I think all you need to do is to continue to develop it. Like, let's not forget Ricochet is there. He's a talented player. Like, they have young talent that they haven't fully developed yet. Jalen Johnson's he's not a finished product in his own right. Like, he can get better. Like, the Atlanta Hawks are a scary, scary team. We were talking earlier about the right matchup for the Pistons in the first round. You want a wrong matchup? The Atlanta Hawks would be a wrong matchup.
No, absolutely. And of course, hey, your Lakers won 7 in a row. And hey, I feel like if we're going to give him grief for every time he does something bad defensively, I feel like I have to give him credit. Because Luka just seems to be locking in on the defensive end more and more as we get closer to the playoffs. I'm not saying he's like some lockdown defender, but that being said, he's a lot more locked in than we saw at the beginning of the season. It's like he's slowly trying to wind himself into that zone. So I love to see it.
I do too. And look, I'm always rooting for my favorite team, right? But I'm cautiously optimistic. Luka's defensive rating much improved. LeBron's defensive rating is much improved. My frustration is, and I voiced this to you last night in the chat, that one of the worst stats that the analytics geeks have put together that doesn't really tell the whole story is the defensive rating of a player, because it doesn't take into account who's on the floor with you. It doesn't take into account who you're actually guarding. A good example is Amen Thompson, who you and I both think is a terrific defender. I think his defensive rating is like 113.8. Luka's is 113.3. You and I both know, and anybody with 20/20 vision know, that Luka and Amen Thompson are not the same defender. So I I'm here for anybody that says that Luka's been more active on defense because that is a factual statement. I'm not here for anybody that says that's why he should go to the forefront of the MVP conversation. I don't think so. Because if you're going to put value into numbers, the guy that just won the MVP has a defensive rating of 107. Not to mention he's dropping 32 a night. You're not usurping him. So that if you're gonna have to find another way for Luka to be MVP, they're gonna have to find a way to become the number one seed, which that isn't going to happen. Luka's terrific. He certainly should be in the conversation. The same way Jaylen Brown should be in the conversation. Cade Cunningham, Joker. I think this is a two-man race. I might be the only one that feels this way, but and it's not surprising, right? I think it's between SGA and Wemby. That's it.
I think when it comes to Luka and like MVP, I think some people have gone a bit too far one way. Like I think Perk going like, well, Luka should be on the second team. I'm like, no, he shouldn't be. He's all NBA first team. Like,
yeah, Perk's lost his mind. He's lost his
right. Like, I think he's going a bit too far in that direction. But I also think that trying to say he's the MVP, I don't agree with that. Like, I still think it's SGA. I think at this point, as long as he doesn't miss, too many games, it's probably just SGA. But I think Wemby and I think Jokic are also probably just above Luka. But I think after those four, then we can get into like Luka convos. Then we can get into like, Jaylen Brown convos, like after those like three or four guys. But no, I agree. I don't think he's the MVP, but I do think that, like, for example, Perk saying, hey, he's not all NBA first team. I can't agree with that.
First of all, right. So the all NBA first team is going to be the best five players. Well, look, he's not the MVP, but Luke is one of the five best players. Whatever you think about him on one end of the floor, he has improved defensively, at least to this point. I'm one of those people. I'm happy with what they've seen. I believe the Lakers have won 9 out of 10. They've beaten the Rockets back to back. By the way, I don't think that's a huge feat because I don't think the Rockets are a good basketball team. The Rockets look like a team that's literally falling apart in front of your eyes. There's no chemistry. There's no communication. The offense is so stale and stagnant. The absence of a true shot creator outside of Kevin Durant is killing them. It's killing them. The Lakers employed a basic concept that any team can employ. They're running two defenders at Kevin Durant, and he easily gets trapped. He kicks the ball out, and then the offense completely stalls out. And the Lakers aren't even a great defensive team. So what happens when a team like the Spurs do that, or a team like OKC does that? The Houston Rockets, if they don't completely collapse, are going to be a first-round exit. Which, by the way, I might give myself a new nickname. I might call myself Mostradamus because I told people when Kevin Durant went to Houston, I told you this too, they're not going to win anything. And they talked about 50, 40, 90, and he's still scoring. All those things are true. This also is true too. Since leaving the Golden State Warriors, destroyed in Brooklyn, destroyed in Phoenix, destroyed with the Rockets. He cannot carry your team anymore. He's a terrific scorer, but there are things that shows his age. It does. You can touch him and be more physical with him, and he kind of submits and gives in. And he's a great player, but I don't think anybody would ever call KD a great leader. He's not. That's not who he is. I'll go a step further. You say this in the opening credits when we roll the show that your bold prediction was Devin Booker would be on the Houston Rockets. Look, I honestly think if the Rockets had their choice, they would have had Devin Booker, but Phoenix was like, nah, we're not doing that. So yeah, they gave up the guy that was like almost a whole decade older than Devin Booker. I'm not anti-Kevin Durant, but I'm realistic. I think Kevin Durant, it wouldn't shock me if this is his first and last season with the Rockets. It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, it's they got to revamp, do some work around KD too, because they got to find some semblance of efficiency. Your offense can't revolve around Steven Adams grabbing offensive rebounds. Like you can't have only one efficient shooter in like Kevin Durant. So I do think that a big part of the obviously KD is part of the issue, but I do think a bigger problem is it's just the team's constructed very weirdly. Like you have like not one, but you have like two non-shooters in Sengun and Amen Thompson, which is hard to do play with in this NBA. Jabari Smith is a very inconsistent shooter.
He is.
So you're running a lineup where your options are like Reed Shepard shooting threes off the dribble, coming off a screen, or Kevin Durant shooting contested middies, because you don't have to guard the rest of the guys. And even if you give Sengun an open jumper, he's going to wait for you to come near him just so he can back you down. That man is maybe the slowest jump shot in the league, and he can't really get it off.
You know what? Shangoon's kind of like an old school player because Brett, you just said it. He loves to get his back to you and crab dribble you into the basket. That's kind of his go-to. I didn't like their roster construction when they got Kevin Durant, and it wasn't about Kevin Durant. It was just what are you going to put with him, because he's going to need another guy that can create for himself and facilitate for others. They don't have that. And I fully understand the value of a guy like Fred VanVleet that's not playing because of injury. And they're like, well, we'll have VanVleet back next year. I'm like, I get it. But next year, Kevin Durant will be 38. The timeline doesn't work. That was my problem with Houston getting Kevin Durant. If they got him this year, Brett, I said they had to win it all. They're not going to win it all. He's not going to be better next year at age 38. He will be that much older. To me, if I sign Kevin Durant, I have to be a team that I literally feel like as soon as we plug in Kevin Durant, we're going to the finals. The Rockets were never constructed that way.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens in the offseason with the Houston Rockets. That's for sure. Let's see, got some comments here. KD to the Clippers or Pelicans? KD to the Pelicans, that would be hilarious.
To the Pelicans? That is cruel. What did he do? I mean, I want KD to go somewhere where he doesn't have to carry the load at age 38, because he'll be 38. Let's keep it a buck, Brett. He needs to go somewhere, dare I say, where he's not the first option.
Yeah, he's got to go somewhere with better spacing and hopefully pair up with a point guard that can just kind of help him get to his spots a little easier, so he got to grind from the 3-point line.
How about this? Go home, man. Go home. You're gonna be 38. Okay. You're gonna be 38 years old. Go home to Oklahoma City and close it out there. Like there's every bit the chance that if you went home, though, you're going home to a team that could be a 2-time championship team. But so what? Go home. Maybe you help them three-peat, but I think you finish where you started. It's a better story. Plus, if you go to Oklahoma City, you don't have to be the number 1 option or the number 2 option.
Our resident OKC fan does not seem to want Kevin Durant back in Oklahoma City.
You don't want KD back? You don't want it back home? It's painful.
Well, hey, Mo, look, we already know he's going to finish where he started. Let me tell you what the script writers are cooking up if you haven't seen it. We might get NBA expansion in 2028 with the Seattle Supersonics.
Oh, I know where you're going.
In Vegas. Kevin Durant's contract expires when? Can come free agent in the same season that the Supersonics might be coming back. We know what you're cooking up, script writers. You ain't slick. KD finishes his career by going home to Seattle.
Well, if we're gonna go full Hollywood, does that mean KD and Russ go back to Seattle together?
Hey, there we go. KD and Russ finish out their career in Seattle. Would be a fun time.
It would be. Bring back those jerseys. Look, KD still would be a really good player. I don't know if he could carry a team, but he'd still be really good. Russ, I don't know if he'd be really good, but he'd be really entertaining.
Hey, and look, you know who's the biggest benefactor maybe of the Supersonics coming back? Gary Payton, because he's now the greatest player in a franchise history again.
Oh, that's kind of dope. I never even thought about it that way. Like, that's right. If they go back to Seattle and the Sonics exist again, then GP goes to the head of the table again. Who's right behind him? Ray Allen?
I would imagine either Ray Allen or Sean Kemp.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I'd never thought about that, but yeah, that's pretty cool. You know what? Good for GP becoming a franchise's GOAT by default. It's cool.
The Thunder have their culture set. Hey, fair enough.
Oh no, look, I'm being a little silly when I say he's going to go back to Oklahoma City. They don't need him, and they have a ton of chemistry, and they're really deep. And unless he's going to play like take a pay cut, he would never go there anyway. I was just saying that, like, look at what LeBron is doing. To his credit, he's bought into this thing where he's more or less the third option, but it's working really well. The chemistry is working a lot better that way because Luka's not deferring, also Reed's not deferring, and LeBron is still getting plenty of opportunities to score, and it's working. I'd like to think that Kevin Durant, the guy that all we do is talk about how efficient he is, and is not a volume scorer, that he could go somewhere and be really effective as a second or third option.
I love that clip, by the way, of LeBron diving on the ground for that loose ball, and then like instantly remembering he's 41, and he just like rolls over like, oh, that's it for me.
Yeah. Well, there was a scary moment last night. He got hard fouled. I forgot who hard fouled him, but it looked like he had hurt his elbow. I thought, oh no, not one of those. He's going to be out for 5 weeks, but luckily he popped back up. He seemed to be okay. Look, I like to give credit where credit is due. Yes, Luka's playing really well. Austin Reed's playing really well. But if you're one of the all-time great players in the history of basketball, if you're in that townhouse where there's only 10 other guys and you're in the top 2 and you're willing to kind of sacrifice numbers to help a team win and play in a different role, I think you got to give LeBron all the credit in the world for doing that, because not a lot of guys could take that step back. Even I know you could go, well, his age and all that, but he's still playing at a really high level. I don't know if Michael Jordan could have said, yeah, I could be a second or third option to these guys. Not everybody has that mentality, so I'm gonna give him credit for that. That takes a lot of mental strength to accept that.
I remember somebody on Twitter was like, they're turning my GOAT into Aaron Gordon. I'm like, buddy, he's willingly doing this. Like, I'm sure if LeBron went to the coaching staff and said, give me more shots, they would absolutely do it. But
in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Yeah, as I said, you got to give him credit for looking at seeing what's best for the team and willing to step back and let, Luka and Reeves control the offense more. So, hey, you know what? NCAA tournament, Mo, we got a lot of prospects playing. Why don't we talk about a puppy prospect for the week?
Let's do it.
From Arkansas, Darius A. Cup Jr. Mo, this guy's polarizing. He's a lead guard. I think that one thing that he's definitely proven in Arkansas, he can handle a big load on offense. He's great with the ball. He don't get ripped real easy. He's a good passer. He's willing to attack the rim. I think the problem with him attacking the rim, he's not overly explosive, so what works against college shot blockers might be a lot more troublesome against NBA shot blockers. But I just kind of made one con the biggest because Mo, this guy's not a defender at all. Like, he's going to come to the league, and I think he's going to be like a Keontae George, Trae Young level defender. So his value will straight up come from, is his offense good enough to offset all the value he's bleeding out on defense? If you believe so, he's a top 10 pick. Some people don't believe so. I've seen some people say he's probably should be picked closer to 20. I think that if he reaches his full potential, I don't think this kid's like a superstar in the making. I think it's like a all-star caliber player. Think the player comp, Stephon Marbury, somewhere in that wheelhouse. I think he's got a lot of talent, but I'm a little iffy on him. I don't agree with the conversation of some people trying to push that he's the number one overall pick in this draft. I don't believe that. But I do think that there's enough high-end offensive upside that he's definitely a lottery pick. So I will be really interested to see where he lands.
Yeah, I mean that's the difficult part about when we start talking about where guys are landing lottery picks and what their potential could be. It does matter what organization you go to, the structure you have, the leadership that's there or not there, because that will greatly impact your rookie season and your foreseeable future. So I'm with you. He's definitely a talented offensive player. Um, I think I think you're right about his ability when he gets downhill at the NBA level. Like NBA shot blockers react a lot quicker. They're a lot more. They use their mind. They move their feet better. They anticipate better. He's going to have to develop a floater, maybe get in the gym a little bit and try to make himself a little bit more explosive. But yeah, look, talent wise, he's incredibly talented, and I don't even mind the Marbury comp. I told you that earlier. I think that's fair, but that's one of those best case scenario he could be as good as. Um, the flip side of that, he could end up being, and this isn't like shade because these are really good players, but he could end up being Jamal Crawford, right? Or Malik Monk, more of an instant offense kind of guy, but a guy that nonetheless you can't leave on the floor too long because they're deficient on the other end of the floor. So I'll say this: if I'm a struggling franchise and he's there when I pick, I'll pick him, and I have to trust that my coaching staff can develop him and get the very best out of him and his skill set.
Hey, like I said, John, I love the prospect. I think he's a great pick, but hey, there's some things, like I said, my biggest concern with him will always be defensively because offensively, he's shown a willingness to play off the ball. He does have a little push shot that he can do to avoid, going up against shot blockers. But like as of right now, he's shown just like no awareness on the ball or off it. And even I know there's a lot of obviously people going, oh, there's a lot of people in the NBA that don't play defense. A lot of your high end guys though still find a way to make an impact. Like we could say Luka Doncic doesn't play defense. I think that Luka Doncic, when he locks in, can absolutely play as part of a team scheme. He's shown it. We saw him make a finals run doing it. Same with Jokic. Even a guy like Allen Iverson wasn't a good defender, but he found a way to make an impact. So I guess, like I said, I'm concerned with almost his effort on the defensive end, but I'm going to give him some credit because I know that there's not really another guy to take the load off of him at Arkansas, but I'm worried that you develop bad habits at times at the collegiate level too that sometimes are hard to shake. So I think it's just very concerning defensively how he's going to shake out, at least in his first couple of years. Yeah, hey, like I said, I like him as a prospect, but
I do too. I anybody that's drafted in the top 10, I root for. And look, I root for guys that are drafted in the second round. I love the guys that come out of nowhere and turn themselves into really good players, even the guys that go undrafted. Obviously, when you're a lottery pick, it comes with some degree of pressure. This kid has a lot of potential. It's just a matter of he goes to the right franchise, the right situation to help bring that potential forward.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, say that's Darius A. Cup Jr. I think some good spots for him. Obviously, the Hawks just lost Trae Young. That could be an interesting spot. I think they could end up needing a lead ball handler, and they're going to have a high pick, but they might be in that AJ, Cam, Darren Peterson range, thanks to the Pelicans. Miami Heat, they waived Terry Rozier. Tyler Hero could definitely use another guy. And, of course, Memphis, I think John Morant's probably on his way out. I don't imagine he's sticking around. So
don't do it. Don't do it, Atlanta. Do not add John Morant to your roster.
That would be hilarious, trading Trae Young just to add John Morant.
Yeah, don't.
Just the most lateral move.
Yeah.
Ooh, huh? Well, AJ dying Boston. BYU got upset in the first round. Texas beat them.
Woo-hoo.
Say AJ at 35 though, so hey, give him some credit. Why is everyone hating on the Wizards? I think the Pacers,
Hating on who?
the Wizards. I'm not hating on the Wizards.
I didn't even mention the Wizards. Like, do we ever talk about the Wizards? I you know what? I actually had a conversation with a guy, and he was trying to explain to me why. He said if you said the top 10 big men in the game today, he said Alex Sarr was a top 10 big man. And I was like, that's ridiculous. That's that that's not remotely true. If you want to tell me he has the potential to be that, I'm listening. But you can't tell me you're top 10 anything if you're the best player on a team that hasn't won 20 games. Like I don't want to hear from you. That's not a flex. I'm the leading scorer or I'm the best player on a team that hasn't won 20 games. You should not talk at all. Alex Sarr is not a top 10 big man. Matter of fact, if you're Alex Sarr, you're not ahead of guys who I don't even care for in terms of getting stuff done. It's crazy talk. I'm not hating on the Wizards. But I am going to be honest about Alex Sarr. Like Alex Sarr, look, you say DeAndre Ayton soft. Alex Sarr makes DeAndre Ayton look like Charles Oakley. You want to see soft? Go watch the Wizards play. Watch Alex Sarr play.
You know what's funny? The last time I talked about the Wizards, I actually gave them credit because I thought the moves to get Trae Young and Anthony Davis were actually fantastic. Because, like, at the end of the day, it's both buy low options, and if they bounce back and play at the level we know they can, I think they can flip them both for positive value or just, income to a long-term contract. But
No,
it's
I agree.
funny because, like, the Wizards, I actually think, made terrific moves at the deadlines, which obviously we're not going to see the results of that until next year when, they get, 50 games or whatever they get out of Anthony Davis. But,
Right.
like, overall, I actually think the Wizards made smart moves picking those guys up.
Which were great moves. Although the last time I saw the Wizards, they let Bam Adebayo score 83 points. So, you know what I mean? Like, we really shouldn't talk about the Wizards that much.
Yeah, that was a rough game for them. Yeah, they've been on a rough defensive stretch. Let's say. I think if they can get even a semi-healthy AD next year, that will be the biggest addition to their team by far because they need all the defensive help they can get.
Look, a healthy AD will make Alex Sarr a better player because AD is obviously a better player. He can bring out whatever the best version of Sarr is. I think AD can bring that out. Trae Young can bring that out of him and some of the other young bigs because Trae Young can set him up where all he has to do is catch and finish. So, look, I'm with you. I like the moves of getting Trae Young and AD because I feel like they're low risk, high reward moves. For a franchise that's been a doormat for years, I think it's a smart move, and we don't get to say that about the Wizards very often.
I think, and with the Pacers, they're gonna have the worst record in the league this year, close to it. They're gonna be in a great spot to get that number one pick. But hey, you know what? If they get the number one pick or get someone like AJ or let's say AJ or maybe even Darren Peterson, pair him up with Halliburton, figure out a long-term answer to the center position because I don't think Jay Huff is it. And they're probably going to be in a pretty good spot next year.
Don't they? I thought, where did Big Z go? I thought Big Z.
Oh, they got Zubac. That's right. I forgot about that trade. Never mind. They got Zubac. They're good.
I think Big Z helps them. But imagine how much easier life will be for him when you get back a fully healthy Halliburton who's going to set you up for lobs and dunks. If they get the right lottery pick to pair with Halliburton, I really think the Pacers, because they do have, in my opinion, one of the two best coaches in basketball, and Rick Carlisle. I think the Pacers go from being a lottery team to back in the Eastern Conference Finals.
No, absolutely. Hey, before we get to our draft, Mo, were you as happy as I was to see that the WNBA figured out their CBA stuff?
Yes. Finally.
So interesting. So salary cap is going to start at $7 million, by the way, as part of the new CBA. Revenue share is nearly 20% across the deal. Supermax for them is starting at 1.4 million, average salary in the range of 600K, minimum above 300K. So like they got a nice pay boost. So you know what? Good for them. Love to see it for them. Say now you know it'll be interesting, Mo. 1.4 million out of 7 is a lot of money to pay one player. So we've seen a team like, you know, the Aces, Liberty, they all have multiple people who might want that big one. So it'll be interesting to see how the Supermaxes kind of play out for each team.
I was thinking that too. That it's funny that how that works. They got what they wanted. They got more lucrative contracts, but when you get those lucrative contracts, money could up in some of the top end teams that have a lot of talent. Because, like you said, a team like the Aces, they've got at least 3 people who are going to want something like that. They're going to want that max deal. So, GMs are going to have to be very creative going forward with the new collective bargaining agreement. So I am happy that they got it done. I'm excited for the upcoming WNBA season, but I think this is going to launch into a whole new era where you're going to have to make moves that work within the salary cap, because you can't pay everybody that top dollar.
Right, and I think some fans too got to be realistic. Like somebody posted earlier on Twitter, teams in the WNBA with a Supermax player, and then they start posting, like, for example, New York Liberty, Jonquel Jones. I think Jonquel Jones is a fine player. I think she's a good player. I also think you'd be crippling your franchise if you gave her a Supermax.
Right.
Like somebody on the Fever. I think the tough one for the Fever will be Aaliyah Boston. She's a great player, but you're going to obviously I think right now it's a no-brainer when she's eligible. As long as she qualifies, you give Caitlin Clark the Supermax.
Right.
Are you going to be able to afford giving a second one out to Aaliyah Boston, also knowing that Kelsey Mitchell is going to want a nice bag as well?
See, and that's where my mind goes. You know what? Maybe the Fever is the perfect case study, because even if you can find a way to please Aaliyah Boston, you're not going to be able to please Kelsey Mitchell. Like my guess is you're going to lose one of the 3. Obviously you're not losing Caitlin Clark, but you're gonna keep Aaliyah Boston. If push comes to shove, you don't want to lose nobody, but if you have to choose, you're gonna keep Aaliyah Boston, and that's too bad, because I think Kelsey Mitchell is the perfect swing guard to play alongside somebody like Caitlin Clark.
No, absolutely. And then, of course, I know some of these older stars are going to want this massive deal, and you got to start, thinking about that too. Like, do the Wings give, obviously you're going to give Paige a big you're going to give Paige a big contract. How much does someone like Enrique earn on the open market? So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited to see how this plays. I'm so happy that the ladies are back playing ball, and
Me too.
like I said, I'm excited, man. We can cover the Minnesota Lynx again this year. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Let's go, Fee. Woo!
Say, I fear Cam Thomas played himself out of a big contract. He looks terrible. Just because of the situation in Milwaukee doesn't really suit him. I didn't really want Cam Thomas. I think I made that clear a couple times on here, but I was willing to give him a chance. But what does suit Cam Thomas? Like, when you watch Cam Thomas play a ball-dominant, undersized guard who scores, and he, can pass, but it's not really his first, second, or third instinct to do so. Like, what is the perfect situation? Like, are we sticking him somewhere to be Jamal Crawford? Will he accept that role? But at the same time, he wants this big $20 million a year contract. You're not really... I don't want to pay Cam Thomas that. So I think if he's realistic about his contract demands, he can find a spot that suits him somewhere where you can put him on the bench and be like, hey, go score. But if he's going to sit there trying to angle for this $15, $20 million contract, well, he's just going to kind of be miserable somewhere, I think.
I think Cam Thomas, the best role for him on the team, in my opinion, it is in that Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams, Malik Monk kind of instant offense off the bench. Maybe play 20, 22 minutes a night. Because I think he can be effective that way without upending team chemistry. He, as your sixth man, I think Cam Thomas comes off the bench when one of your two primaries are sitting, or maybe both of them, and he can be instant offense. I think there is a place in the NBA for Cam Thomas, but to your point, is Cam Thomas self-aware enough to realize that's kind of my NBA zone? That's where I probably will fit best as a kind of instant offense guy coming off the bench, because he's point guard size, but he's not a point guard. He doesn't have point guard skills. He's a two guard in a 6'2" body. And he's a two guard that's a volume scorer. I think he has value, but I think he needs to go somewhere where one, they're in need of scoring power off the firepower off the bench, and two, he has the body. You know what I mean? Like, we just got through talking about Ayton, and it's only taken Ayton, like, when has he been in the league? 8 years to realize like he can help make winning plays by doing something other than score. Well, Cam Thomas has to realize that his impact in the NBA, I think where he can be really impactful and help a team win, is coming off the bench.
Yeah, no, absolutely. John, they already have like 18 guards in Chicago. Why do they need a 19th guard in Chicago? By the way, I was giving Too Bad He Ain't in the chat. Shout out to Damien. I was talking to him on a Discord, but he caught me off guard. We were talking about Giannis, and he said, "Come to the Bulls. You can play with one of our superstars." I'm like, "Ooh, is like Michael Jordan unretiring? Is Derrick Rose
one of our superstars?"
And he's like, "Well, either Montez Buzelis or Josh Giddey, pick one." I'm like, "I'm not picking either of them to be superstars."
But I like both.
Them.
I like both of them. But yeah, I like both of them. And I think if Buzelis continues in his development, he might at one point he might at some point in his career be able to make that case. I think Josh Giddey will always be a really good basketball player, no matter where he lands. Let me start there. But at the same time, he's one of those guys that he's that good, but he's not good enough to where you could build a team around Josh Giddey.
I think the problem with trying to do that, I think the problem with Josh Giddey too, trying to build the team around him, is you need the ball in his hands at all times, and that's not really conducive to playing with other star talent. So I think he'll always be this, like, I think you'll be that very good guy that makes a lot of money from bad teams, which is a great lot in life. Hey, go make your couple $100 million in your career.
I mean, look, you look up NBA salaries. I think Tobias Harris has made almost $300 million. And I'm not knocking him. He's a good player. But when you look at the kind of money he's made, you might think, man, Tobias Harris must be like a 6 or 7 time All-Star. And he's not any of those things. He's just a really good player who might have one of the greatest agents in NBA history. I think Josh Giddey's going to kind of be in the same lot, even though they have different skill sets. He's going to make a ton of money. Hopefully the Bulls are smart enough to realize that Josh Giddey can definitely be part of a winning team, but he would have to be in a certain role. And I don't know if you can win, like you said, Brett, if Josh Giddey is just ball dominant all the time.
He's got that Kirk Cousins agent fair. Yeah, no,
yeah.
No, absolutely. Hey, that's fair enough. So of course, Mo, why don't we top off the show with our final 10 from our first round draft? By the way, don't mind me, I forgot to change Derrick Rose off the graphic here. So D Rose is going to be postering Dragic over in the corner.
We love it.
No, absolutely. So if anybody hasn't been keeping track, we've been just having fun doing big boards from every year for like the past decade. So we started off with Hey, what's good, Kyle? How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Kyle?
We started off with 05, went to 2015, and so on, and here's where we're at. We're at these 10 players. So I think at least the start is really easy, Mo. I think we can agree who's last, right? Like, you have any objections to me putting Michael Olowokandi at 10?
I'd be objected if you didn't put him anywhere else, but yes.
No, that's fair. That was just kind of a mind. I think even at the time, Mo, that was a mind blowing pick.
So I think those are easy. Like I think he's 10. I think Kwame Brown is 9. It might get, you could, I don't know, you can flip a coin in my opinion between Kenyon Martin and Andrew Bogut, who's 8. Andrew Bogut wasn't a dominant player, but he did have a good long career. Kenyon Martin was a number 1 pick, and he had a good run with the Nuggets. He started off with the Nets, was really good with the Nets. He was never, like a star player, but a really good basketball player, really good defender, athletic, could finish. I guess I was going to say I would give him the edge because he went to the finals, but Bogut won a title, I think, as a role player, right? Didn't he win a title with the Warriors or no? Maybe that was the other guy. I'm sorry. But so I think you can flip flop between those two. Who's 8? I wouldn't have a problem either way.
Saying as a prospect, as a prospect, they like this back end's all close. I think the front end's going to be so much fun. I guess the real question is now, since we're, obviously, if anybody doesn't know, we're taking into consideration pre-draft type and before.
Yes.
My question is, what do you do with someone like Yao Ming? Yao was very hyped coming into the league.
He was.
With his size and everything. Like, I personally, I still don't think he's on the level of, the top 4, which I think everybody can point out rather easily. But I feel like it's going to be Yao, Kmart, Bogut in terms of prospects when they got drafted.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. And I know, and Kyle's right. In college, I think Kmart was Defensive Player of the Year. He was on that crazy Cincinnati team that had all kind of guys that got drafted. The hype with Kmart coming out, he didn't have a lot of hype. Everybody talked about how explosive a leaper he was and kind of defender he was. My only thing is when you draft a guy number 1 and he's primarily known for defense, I don't feel good about that. Unless it's a big man. If you're drafting a guy that's 7 feet or whatever, and he's primarily known for just being a dominant defender, that's one thing. But when you draft I think Kenyon Martin's like 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", and he's known for defense because he's not really a good offensive player. I wouldn't have drafted. I'm not drafting that guy number 1. But I get the hype. I remember the hype. But his hype doesn't eclipse. Obviously, it doesn't eclipse the hype around LeBron. It doesn't equip the hype around a guy like Dwight Howard. It certainly doesn't eclipse the hype around a guy who did play for Georgetown and Allen Iverson. And look, I don't know about you, Brett, but I saw Tim Duncan in college. He had me sold when he was at Wake Forest. I'm like, this guy is different. Like, you knew Tim Duncan was that dude. So I think the top, I want to say 4 guys is really easy. The debate is more about the bottom guys and the guys in the middle, but the top 4 guys, I think, are pretty easy.
I'll say, and because I think the last 2 we have to debate before we get to those first 4, Yao Ming or not Kwame or Elton Brand as a prospect. Elton Brand was nice coming into the league.
He was. I remember him at Duke. The guy could put the ball on the floor a little bit in the mid-range, had a face-up game, a post game, physical, strong. Elton Brand had a lot of hype, and it was deserved hype. And Yao was more of a mystery. So I'm based off of what they were coming out of college. I think Elton Brand had more hype. I think I would have drafted Elton Brand.
Hey, you know what? That's fair. Now here's where this gets fun, Mo. The LeBron, Dwight, Duncan, Iverson. It almost would feel wrong to not put LeBron James at number 1.
Agreed. And by the way, LeBron didn't play in college, obviously, but he had more hype than any guy that played in college, right? Like when we think about the guys that skipped college, including Kobe, I don't know anybody that had the hype train that LeBron had. And if you got an opportunity to see him play, you realized he lived up to it. Like, do you remember that time that he was while he was still in high school that ESPN like had one of his games on ESPN on prime time? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, I went back and like looked into a lot of the old LeBron stuff, and yeah, no, that's absurd.
and the thing is, he didn't even have one of his better games, but he was clearly the best player on the floor. And if I think I lost track, but at one point I swear he has set guys up for wide open looks like 10 times. He can't control whether they make it or not, but his court vision, even back then, we're talking about a guy fresh out of high school, was insane. He just was gifted. So yeah, I think LeBron is clearly number one.
And I guess the real question is, Mo, beat who's number two? With our remaining three are Duncan, AI, or Dwight Howard. Which one was the best prospect? You know what, Mo? I might go Duncan.
I think we're in the same wheelhouse. I got to see D12. What you could see of him when you looked at him as a prospect coming out into the NBA. But I remember seeing Duncan, and Duncan's played against guys that are going to be drafted high, lottery pick type players, and he's dominating people at Wake Forest. Like, and it's with the fundamentals of like an older, more skilled player, and he's doing it in college. I think it's Duncan. I think it's Duncan. Even though Iverson is he kind of had a deserved hype, because Iverson obviously was a high school football superstar, a superstar at Georgetown. I think at Georgetown is where he started having that whole thing where the culture kind of pulled around him. I still think as a prospect, Duncan was the greater prospect. I think Duncan was a greater Dwight is a freakish athlete, but we're talking about who was the best basketball prospect. It was Tim Duncan.
I agree with that. I will tell myself that Melo was a better prospect. Hey, you know what? Nothing wrong with that, Kyle.
Nothing wrong at all.
I saw the words I will tell myself. I got scared. I was to say like I thought Darko would clear, but no, yeah, no. You know what? I get that though, because Syracuse Melo, I can get why he had people feeling like he could be better than LeBron.
I
talent.
I didn't have him better than LeBron, but I thought he was like right there with him. I did, because remember LeBron comes into the league and he's, as a rookie, I think he's like 6'8", 245 or something. Like, he's a big dude. Melo was every bit as big. Melo was huge. The guy that I closely think looks a lot like Melo today is Paolo Banchero. He's Melo. He is Carmelo Anthony on the Denver Nuggets. He doesn't have Melo's that quick first step, but everything else, they're the same guy. And I think in a lot of ways, Paolo has some of the same strengths and the same flaws that Melo has. You just hope, as a fan, that Paolo stays in the lab and improves upon those things. But yeah, I'm with Kyle. Melo was a monster coming out. I'm not going to say I thought he was better than LeBron, but I definitely thought he was close.
No, absolutely. And then I guess that leaves two more, Mo. D12 or AI as a prospect. This is tough because this almost feels like this turns into a conversation of positional value, right? Because in my head, if I'm making a big board, I probably want the 6'10" center who's just an absolute demon shot blocker and lob threat. But man, Allen Iverson, that boy, nice.
He was nice. I mean, and you got to see him play at college, at the highest of levels. Man, it's close. It really is. I don't know if you saw Dwight Howard at the combine, at the NBA combine. He was a freakish athlete. I think people forget just how freakishly gifted Dwight Howard was as an athlete. I would probably, if I was going by at their position, I would say Dwight Howard. But if we're just going on who had the most hype coming out heading into the draft, I still think it was Allen Iverson.
Oh, absolutely. Say, I know on my big board personally, yeah, I would probably that's what makes it tough. Like I feel like I'm because I like on my head I'm like, yeah, I'd probably take Dwight if I got the chance between two. Without knowing how they're going to play out in the future, I would take Dwight
Right.
Howard.
And that's fair. By the way, you're not alone. We are talking about what they were projected to be heading into the league. Look, heading into the league as a GM, I think I would have taken Dwight Howard too. And the thing is, if you look at how his career played out, especially those first 8 years, if you're the GM that made that move, Brett, they would have gave you all kind of raises.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like I said, here's what I got written down, and y'all can tell me if you agree or not. Got Oluwakandy, Kawame, Bogut, Kmart, Yao, Elton Brand. I put Allen Iverson at 4, D12 at 3, Timmy, and LeBron James.
I love it. I mean, chat, you guys might have a different order, and that's cool. Let us know what you think. But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I think that's exactly how I would do it. Again, on the premise of what they would be or what they might be. We can't go off of what they became.
No, absolutely. So, say by the way, Mo, I got a real quick shout out my guy Paulo Banqueros. You did mention him. He's been turning it up since the All-Star break. Everything's up across the board for him.
He's you know what he's doing? This surge, it hasn't still made our prediction right, but he's making us look less wrong. If that makes any sense.
He does this every year, though, it feels like, and this is like why I buy into him so hard. It feels like in the second half of every year and the playoffs, he turns it up. And then you go into the next season, you're like, yeah, Paulo, yeah, this is his year. And then he just is like the most frustrating player to watch for the first half of the season. But as soon as the All-Star break ends, it's like he remembers how to play basketball and he looks like the number one pick. He's just like a late bloomer every single year.
Maybe he's one of those guys that's just a slow starter. I remember there's a few guys that said they start the season out and they kind of like they get into NBA shape over the course of the season. Yeah, I get that. Let me ask you this question. You're obviously a Bucks fan, a Giannis fan. I'm a Giannis fan. In the East, in the NBA in general, even though his season probably is going to get shortened if they decide to cut him short, is there another power forward in the NBA that could be an all NBA power forward outside of Giannis? Because it's interesting when you start looking at that position, because we can look at centers, two guards, point guards, small forwards. But right now in the current NBA, there are not a lot of great power forwards. And I was trying to figure out, is there one that you could think of that could be all NBA?
What's tough is like the guys that could be all NBA already made all NBA, right? Like obviously, I think Jason Tatum is all NBA.
Is Tatum a power forward though? I think he's a 3. I don't think he's a 4.
Yeah, they like to mix him between the 3 and the 4, depending who's. He's almost that guy that's just position forward.
I think Paolo weighs almost 250 pounds. Like, how are you not a power forward? Even though you have ball handling skills. But there's not a lot of great power forwards right now. It's kind of weird. And maybe because the league has gone more positionless and they're playing smaller lineups. If it works, it works. But yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, if you take Giannis out of the equation, who fills that void at power forward?
Yeah, it gets kind of dicey after that because I probably then you start like people will be like, well, Kevin Durant or LeBron. I was like, well, they're both like 35 and like 36, so that's interesting. Yeah, it just feels like it's kind of in a weaker spot right now, but they say it's pretty solid depth wise. Just doesn't have the star power at the top.
Maybe that's the way I should have phrased it. Yes, there are some good players, but they don't have a lot of star power. And look, when the old guard steps down, whenever that may be, there will be a bit of a gap.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, look at Wemby. We recognize that he's 7'5", but I don't know if Wemby's a center or is he a power forward. I just know he's a big. Maybe Wemby is an all NBA power forward, or let's just call him an all NBA big.
I almost feel like we're just going to have to start like because with the way positionless basketball is now, Mo, it almost feels like trying to put some players at positions almost feels kind of pointless. Let's say you mentioned this matchup earlier. The Rockets better pray they don't get San Antonio in the first round.
I don't want to see that.
I think it would just be a massacre for 4 games straight.
I think they get swept. I don't think there's any even, and I'm talking about a full strength. I mean, with Sangoon, Adams, and who's valuable to them. I think the Spurs are too, and I know the Rockets would try to be physical with the Spurs. I don't think that would be enough because I think the Spurs have the perimeter defenders. They could turn around and be just as physical with KD. And Wemby's an anomaly. Should KD get past the first defender, the 7-foot guy who's every bit as quicker than you are and longer than you are will be waiting.
Yeah, and when you have, like we kind of touched on earlier, when he can literally just play defense on Amen Thompson or Sengun, but just literally stand in the paint the entire time, it's just going to be a barrage of tough middies. By the way, did you see that Wemby clip of him chasing around Darius Garland and blocking
That was
him?
so impressive, though. Do you people don't realize how impressive that was because Darius Garland is one of those really quick guards, right? And Wemby's there it was a defensive masterclass. And then Darius Garland at the last minute, he quick steps him and he tries to shoot a lefty floater, and Wemby just swallows the shot up. Like that was it was amazing. By the way, in the chat, what Kyle just posted, I'm a Laker fan, but as a fan of basketball, yes, Kyle, I'm with you. That was absolutely maddening that the Rockets could not figure out how first of all, you have to run somebody to the middle of the court. I don't care who it is, but somebody's got to come to the free throw line to be a pressure release and attack a zone better. Like that's a basic basketball principle. And this is where, while I'm a fan of Ime Udoka as a coach, he's not a great in-game adjust coach. Like Rick Carlisle would have recognized that instantly, and he would have figured out how the best to attack it. And the Rockets, 2 games in a row, could not figure out how to attack a zone.
Say, Rick Carlisle would have just spammed KD to the free throw line. Jabari Smith, you're setting a pin down on the corner, man, so he can't follow KD to the free throw line to get an open look. Like, he would just be spamming KD and Reed Shepherd to the free throw line.
Yeah, it was frustrating. This is just as look, as a Laker fan, of course I ate it up because it just solidified us at the 3 spot right now in the conference. But you're watching the Rockets and you're like, come on, man, you have to do more than just be so basic, like run a pick, run a pin down, like you said, but you have to get KD moving. You can't let him be a stationary target where they can just chase him and trap him all the time. Like it was disappointing. But look, everything the Lakers did, anybody that plays the Rockets should take that film and go, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to touch on one more thing before you get out of here, Mo, because I saw some interesting conversations too about another rookie we touched on a couple weeks ago in prospects in Cam Boozer. I see a lot of people worried that he's not a 3-point shooter. He can't shoot at the 3. I've seen people get worried about that, and that's weird to me. I think there is a kind of a 3-point issue with Cam Boozer. But I think the idea that he can't shoot a 3 is weird because he's a 40% 3-point shooter at the collegiate level. I think that'll translate. But I do think that if Boozer wants to be an elite 3-point shooter at the next level, I think he's going to have to speed up his release a little bit. I think he's going to have the Chet Holmgren problem where Chet can shoot, but his release is so slow. I've never seen a guy his size get blocked as much as he did. And I do think with Cam, I think he can shoot. I don't think that's an issue. But I will say I would love to see Cam just kind of work on speeding up his release a little bit because those NBA closeouts hit different. They're going to be covering ground quick.
No, I agree. But I'm of the mindset, like you said, do I think Cam Boozer can get in the lab and improve his range going into the next level? Absolutely. And I think he's a smart enough basketball player that if somebody closes out too hard to him, Cam can put the ball on the floor. If you close out too hard, when he puts the ball on the floor, it doesn't look like a big. He looks more like a small forward when he attacks you. So anybody that's saying this is why I wouldn't draft Cam Boozer, you're making a mistake.
Like I'll tell you, like I think Boozer can figure it out. I was just thinking that he needs to speed up his release. I think my concerns with Boozer are more on the defensive end. He's just like that awkward 6'8", so he's not really like long enough to protect the rim. And he's going to get out rebounded by a lot of guys, even at his own position. So like that's my concern with Boozer. But I saw some discourse about his 3-point shot, and I just wanted to comment like, I think he'll figure it out, but I do think he needs to speed it up. Otherwise, him and Chet are going to be having an arms race on who gets their shot blocked the most.
And you make a great point. Whoever drafts Boozer, you hope that he gets drafted to a situation where they have a center who is a rim protector. He's going to need somebody that has his back defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, that being said, Mo, anything you want to add before we get on out of here?
No, thank you guys so much for joining us. Appreciate all the energy from the chat, your comments, your questions. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Make sure to join us next Thursday as well.
Which, by the way, just for fun, we're going to do one final, draft big board. Except, here's the kicker. We're going to take the 3 prospects that finished 10th. So, Reshishay, Bennett, Oluokandi, they're out. And we're going to replace them with the top 3 prospects of this draft. So, we're going to have a little fun and see where would we rank AJ against all the former number 1 picks. Darren Peterson.
I like that.
Cam Boozer. So, like I said, we're going to do one more big board. And we're going to take away out all the number 10s and add in the 3 top prospects from this year. It's sad fans think every NBA player has to be a 3-point special.
I agree.
No, absolutely. No, I agree with that. Say, I don't think he desperately needs to. I think he's going to make an impact without having to shoot a 3 ball.
No question. He's a really good basketball player. Yeah, my only concerns for him is as what you alluded to, is will he get overwhelmed on the defensive side of the floor? And I hope that wherever he goes, like I said, he's drafted by a franchise that already has a plan in place or already has that guy in place. You're going to need a rim protecting big who's athletic enough to be able to show and recover and have Boozer's back.
I will say the one thing I hope Cam Boozer never does. If you ever shave your head, don't do the Carlos Boozer and draw that shit in with a Sharpie. That looked so awkward. It's still one of my favorite pictures of all time in NBA history, by the way. Just Carlos Boozer with a Sharpie on his head, and I'm just like, what is happening?
He painted hair on. That was crazy.
What's wrong if he masters the Avery Bradley Deep 2? There we go. He can take shooting lessons from Speedy Claxton and Avery Bradley, but always on the line.
The Deep 2, the Avery Bradley Deep 2. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Kyle.
Absolutely. Like I said, with that being said, we'll make sure to have some more for you next week. As the WNBA season and news kicks along, we'll definitely cover that some more this year. We'll also be talking more March Madness. We'll be about a week into the game, so it'll be a very eventful week next week. But until then, we thank you for tuning in and enjoy the rest